This is the Doctor, President-elect of the High Council of Time Lords.
I am definitely a madman with a box.
Anyone for jelly, baby?
I'm the Doctor. I'm 904 years old. I'm from the planet Gallifrey in the constellation of Castobrus.
Hey, you fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And we're at episode 94.
94.
94.
For the benefit of our listeners, Gary is joining us live from Broadmoor Prison after being caught taking a selfie in the Who shop at the weekend.
That was...
I saw it.
You saw it, did you?
Saw the picture. I was like, uh-oh. Be in trouble.
Yes, another little incident at the Who shop at the weekend.
Another one.
I shall tell you very soon.
Right.
Welcome aboard the TARDIS, everybody. Thank you for joining us for episode 94. Hope you've had a cracking Doctor Who week and you've managed to do something in your lives related to the Travelling Time Lord. What have you been up to, buddy? Anything cool?
Not a lot, mate. I've been listening to our review thingy this week quite a lot because I wanted to try and get it to sink into my brain what was actually going on in some of the stories. So I've been doing that, re-listening. I had a tiny little delivery from Forbidden Planet yesterday, which was a TARDIS Funko Pop keyring or keychain.
Okay.
Yep. I have to say the quality control at Funko is not great, and it looks like it's been chewed by a dog.
Oh God,
considering it. I mean, you'd imagine you know how many things can go wrong with making a keyring. Well, it looks like they've had trouble gluing the lid on, and basically they've managed to bash. It looks like they've bashed it on because there's all these scratch marks and the lid's on one key, and also the paint bleeds have all gone into the windows. So I was like, I opened it up yesterday. Oh, this great big box with a tiny little keyring in it, and I was like, oh dear, it looks terrible.
Oh, man.
This is the thing with Funkos. I think you've got to get them from the shop, haven't you? It's no good ordering them online because it's just pot luck.
That is, mate. That's the thing with Pop. It's for the most part, they're generally okay, aren't they? But you do get that odd one. I mean, I've got an old Batman Pop Funko, and it's absolutely dreadful. Like the paint is all over the place, and I don't mind so much around like under the base of the head or around the feet or something. But when you get it around, like the big white eyes, when they're not perfectly circular,
I know,
and you got paint over that, and then you've got around the mask, and I know what you mean. It's not that they must just pump so many out very quickly. Yeah, it's very difficult to make everyone perfect, I suppose, but.
It's funny you say about the eyes, because I remember buying one of the Iron Man ones ages ago and spending ages in the shop trying to pick the perfect one. And I was there for so long. I was like, that was good. Oh, no, but that bit of the body's not right. Anyway, finally found what I thought was the perfect one. And it wasn't until I got home and got it in a certain light that I realised he was perfect, apart from the eyes, which were completely off. Like you could see, like they were totally off center, both of them. So they were sort of just a tiny fraction lower than they should be. You could sort of see the bit where they were supposed to be painted on. I was like, no, picking the perfect one. Oh, so disaster. But yeah, you're right. They probably pump out so many, it's difficult. But I was just, I wasn't really annoyed. I was just like, I almost just laughed. I was like, look at the state of this,
Bloody hell. Sometimes you have to just pick the best of a bad bunch.
Yeah, and it was so lovingly packed as well, considering it was from FP. It was so lovingly boxed. Yeah, nice. It was just in there on its own. Yeah, so
Funkos are definitely ones that I would rather buy in a shop. So I agree with you because if you get that one through the post and the paintwork looks like it was done by 40-year-old alcoholic in the dark, it's just you're stuck with it unless you want to send it back. But what can you? I don't know. I suppose Amazon, if you order it from Amazon or so, they'll probably take it back. But
I was like, I can't bother. My other half was just like, but if you use it as a keyring, it's going to get bashed anyway. And I was like, using it as a gas. I said, this is staying boxed. This is not coming out.
The very thought of it.
Yeah, the very thought of it leaving its box. But no, it's so bad. I probably will use it as a keyring actually. There's no point in keeping it boxed. But there we go. So that's what I've been up to. What about you?
What have I been up to? Well, I haven't really done much in the way of Who, to be honest with you. I've been out and about a bit with work and busy with that sort of stuff. I haven't really had a chance. I have, because I've listened to our review episodes, I listened to those a couple of times. It did get me in the mood for some Tennant, I must admit. So the only thing I've done really is stick on a couple of episodes from Series 4. So I had to watch Unicorn and the Wasp.
Oh, yeah.
Because my wife just insists that we watch that one whenever we're watching David Tennant. So I had to watch that, which I'm actually learning. I'm getting into it more and more. I watch it. I must have watched it
if you're in the right mood for it, I think it's actually a cracking little episode.
It's a great laugh as well. Yeah. So I must have seen that like maybe 6-7 times now because the missus, she just loves it. She thinks Donna's really funny in it, and it's just a good little laugh. So, and then I stuck on Planet of the Ood, which is a good one.
Oh yeah.
So I've watched a couple of the old Tennants, and that's pretty much it. I've read the latest episode, the latest issue, of the Fourth Doctor comic from Titan.
Oh yeah.
So issue number 3 was out last week, I believe. So that's still going well. It's a good comic.
That's still good. Yeah.
Yep. Other than that, just generally being awesome. Not really much else going on. I kept an eye on the auction though. Did you watch that? The auction that was happening?
No, I didn't actually. No.
Oh, dude, that was good. Yeah, it was good.
You could watch it live.
Well, no, you could see as the
prices going up.
Yeah, so you could see, man, some of that stuff.
I realised you could watch it.
We weren't kidding when we said that some of that's going to go for some serious money.
Yeah.
It's just literally no point in us bidding at all.
Really?
On any of it, yeah.
Oh dear. I'm trying to think because they did have some good stuff. I bet that pinball machine went for a lot.
I can't remember the exact numbers that they went for, but we're talking 4 figures at least.
Right.
For a lot of it. So
yeah,
it was some serious money, but it was.
You just put the wallet away.
Yeah, it was like, let me just get my wallet out. Nope, it's going straight back in. There we go. So yeah, that was cool.
I was going to say, it was something I was going to, because I didn't mention this before we kicked off. Obviously, it was your birthday last weekend, so happy belated birthday.
Thank you very much.
For last week. Did you get any Who goodies, or did they just think, no, he's got it all, we won't risk it?
Do you know what? I didn't get any Who stuff this year for my birthday.
What? Outrageous.
No, I think for that very reason.
Yeah.
I think, because my wife did say to me, I'm struggling once again to think of something to get you for your birthday. So is there anything you want? And she's like, anything Doctor Who, Star Wars, you want anything? I was like, kind of got everything I want really at the minute. Nothing really I'm sort of looking out for particularly. She's like, okay, same as usual then. But in the past, she has surprised me and she has got me some cool little Who stuff. But no, nothing Who stuff this year. Although we did end up in the Who shop again at the weekend.
Yeah.
Last weekend. And we did nab a quick selfie, which was great. And funny little incident happened.
Oh, go on.
And it's not a bad thing. It's not another one of those, oh, crikey. But when I was having a mooch around, the missus has found something, only something small she wanted to get. And as she was queuing up to pay for it, somebody was in front of her. She knocked something over because they've got like a display. They got a display like in front of the till, which has got like Pop Funkos on it and key rings and all sorts. And all I heard was this huge like explosion of product hitting the floor. Like,
oh, no.
And I didn't even have to walk around the corner. As soon as I heard it, I was like, that's my wife.
You knew.
Yeah. And yeah, and then literally within a second, she was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I'm very sorry. So she's picked it all up and she went, right, I'm just going to pay for this. I'm going to wait for you outside before I do any more damage. I was like, that's all right. No problem. And then there was a guy in front of me and he was next to pay after me. And he did exactly the same thing because he had a backpack on and he turned round to do something and he knocked everything off again. And the lady owner, who I still can't remember the name for the life of me, behind the counter says to her, "That's twice in a day. You should take a photo."
You're joking?
Not joking.
What?
She it was very flippant, off the cuff remark. She's like, "Oh, that's twice now today. You should take a photo." I'm standing there literally like 4 feet away, staring at her like with that face like, really?
And you were like, is she joking? Should I get, oh no.
It was like, is she baiting me? Is she?
Yeah, she's trying. It was a test.
Yeah, does she want me to pull my phone out so she can bollock me again? Is it entrapment?
It is.
I'm not sure.
Clearly.
So it's another one of those funny little moments in the Who shop where, I just looked around like, is this really happening? Did I really just hear her say that?
We've got to go there together. I'll tell you, because you've been quite a lot really recently, and I haven't been for ages. It's just too far out. Every time I love the shop, but yeah, every time I'm in central London, I'm like, it must take at least, I don't know, probably an hour, 45 minutes to get there for central London. Is it? It's quite maybe not that long. I don't know.
Yeah, well,
we'll have to go together at some point.
Yeah, well, we've been sort of around that area, just doing other things really. And it's always a case of, well, if we're only like 10 minutes away, may as well just swing in there, see if they've got anything cool.
You chose the T-shirt department to take your selfie, though. I was a little disappointed. I wanted to see a Dalek in the background, really.
Yeah.
You just sort of working your way up to it. You're going to, next week, you're going to try and get a picture of, perhaps a Cyberman helmet in the background, or...
Yeah, I have to sort of do this in stages. It's like baby steps. I can't just go straight in with the Dalek selfie.
When you walk in the door, do you hear the Mission Impossible theme in your head?
I will play that on my phone, though, the next time I go in, and sort of go a Scooby-Doo fashion, against the walls, trying to conceal myself. But no, I'm on the other side of the coin, though. I really don't mean to put anybody off. This is not like, I'm telling you to steer clear of the place. It's a great little shop, as we've both said many times. It's just having this funny, ongoing little sort of personal joke, about this whole cameras and photos and selfie thing. But I don't want to put anyone off. If you want to go to the Who shop, it's a fantastic little place.
Oh, it is cool.
Yeah.
So what did you actually buy? What did you get?
I didn't buy much. Oh, I bought another book, one of the Lethbridge Stewart novels. As I said, I'm trying to collect them in actual physical book form now. So I've got the latest one, I think, by Sadie Miller. It is
The Beast of
Moonblink.
Oh, Moonblink. Yeah.
So I've got one more to get, and then I've got like the set in actual books. So I picked that up. I've got another little toy, my little Ood that I picked up before that's guarding my external hard drive on my desk. I've got one of the little Pyrovile figures as well.
Oh, right.
So he's a cool little thing, from the Fires of Pompeii episode.
Yeah.
So he's quite cool. And also, I've got something else. What was it? I got something else, and for the life of me, I can't remember. It wasn't anything big, but
okay.
I think it might have been a CD or something. So yeah.
Good
Adventures in the Who shop.
I know.
So that's us. Unless you've got anything else to waffle on about?
No, I haven't. No, I've just been listening to a lot of audio this week, mainly. That's been my week. Yeah, it's been quite nice actually, because whereas sometimes we struggle to find time to watch the episodes, maybe because other people who will remain nameless are hogging the television. The good thing about audio is I could just sneak off and listen to it on some headphones upstairs, or it was slightly easier to fit in than.
True.
Because sometimes like when we're saying about reviewing a TV app, I'm like thinking, okay, I've got the house to myself for a couple of hours on Monday, I'll do that, and it doesn't always work out. So sometimes you have to sort of fit it in with other people you might live with, like you with your wife and kids and stuff. And so this has been quite nice this week. I've just been able to plug in, pretend I'm listening, and listen to it. So it's been quite cool. Yeah,
indeedy, I echo that. Done the same. Yeah. Shall we land this beast?
Yeah, let's land it.
And do some of the news. Quite light on news this week.
Yeah.
Literally not much has happened at all in the world of Doctor Who. So this auction that I mentioned earlier, which is very fun to watch the the price is escalating out of sensible control. We mentioned the Dalek, the red one that was the from the Daleks' Invasion of Earth.
The movie, the Cushion movie.
From the Cushion movie, the 66 movie. That went for a little bit of money. £38,000.
Wow, 38,000.
No kidding.
Wow.
That's the kind of money that these things were attracting last week.
That is a lot.
Or this week.
That's a lot of dosh.
That's a lot of dosh, isn't it? I'd
love a Dalek, but I don't know that I'd stump up 38,000. I mean, the person must have really, really wanted this one.
Yes. I think it was one of the props that they were auctioning off that got pretty much most of the attention because it's so rare. I mean, because you can probably find like full-size Dalek props that have been used over the years.
Yeah.
Other auctions will probably go for a third of that, if not less. Whereas this one, I think because of the design of it, is very slightly different to what you had in the main show. And it's complete and everything. And it's just because it's completely, it is canon, isn't it? They are canon.
I was going to say, I suppose, I mean, that's the thing. I suppose a lot of the time with the auction ones, you might have got sort of one Dalek that's been put together from bits over the show, because they used to go off to exhibitions, didn't they? So they'd sort of make one good Dalek out of a load that would perhaps, falling apart. So very often ones that are for sale are not like they've been seen in the TV show or whatever.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, it's, looking at the photo and that, and obviously they've authenticated it.
Yeah.
Looks pretty decent condition. And we're assuming it's all the original bits and it hasn't been tidied up. But I mean, the movie Daleks are great. They do have like you said, they are bigger and they've got their big flashing lights and, they were pretty decent in design. I liked what they did with them.
Yeah, they did look cool. So the auction as a whole raised nearly 100 grand.
Wow.
So it was just over £90,000 that everything went for. I'm really surprised though that the full size replica TARDIS that was used in the stage show, Doctor Who, that only went for just under £1,000.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I thought that was one of the things that would go because again, that's a rare item. That's the stage show is obviously something that wasn't around for too long, was it?
No, not really, no.
So that's like an original prop from Doctor Who that's rare, that's not, I'm not saying that the TARDIS prop from the show is a dime a dozen, you can get them everywhere, but this is like a real proper classic one that, under £1,000.
And there wouldn't have been many, I mean, they probably, I'm guessing, made one or maybe two. I don't know. They wouldn't have made many for that show, would they? They'd have just used the same prop, so quite rare.
But so Mr. Dalek in red. Quite fetching in red.
Yeah, I like him.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
I gotta say, when we reviewed the Victory of the Daleks the other week, or we were saying about the colour scheme, something about the Cushion movie Daleks, they get away with being different colours. Like, they actually look good, I think. Like the gold and the black and the red. I think they work being different colours somehow.
Yeah, well, they're not in your face crazy colours like we had with the Paradigm Daleks that we spoke about. And they're also they haven't got that horrible, shiny, acrylic looking cheap plastic.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I think you hit the nail on your head when you said about the plastic look. I think that was what was their downfall. But these look still pretty mechanical and metally. And whoever's bought that, great buy. Can we please borrow a $5 to buy something? Because good buy, but a lot of dosh.
A really funny message as well, just before we end on this story, from the guy that was selling it, the previous owner. His wife actually made a funny little comment when the Beeb interviewed her. And said, "There's no way that we can accommodate all these things. The last thing I want is a Dalek in my bedroom." She said, "Everything had to go. We don't want any of it back. I'm locking my husband in a straitjacket in the garden shed so he can't bid on any of it again."
That was the wife of the guy who's bought this?
No, the wife of the guy who's selling it.
Oh, he's selling it, right.
So
no.
It sounds like it's like one of those very typical couples where the other half just doesn't get it.
Yeah.
It's like, why have you got all of this nerd crap cluttering up my entire house. It has to go. So I think an element of this is like he was sort of half bullied into getting rid of this.
I feel sorry for him because I can totally relate to that story. Yeah.
I think a lot of us
can. My other half goes mad about the amount of clutter I've got.
Yeah.
I feel sorry for the guy who had to sell that. I bet he was really had sort of had a little moment with it on his own just before it went off to the auction truck. It's been fun. It's been good. I've enjoyed riding around in you. But it's time to say goodbye.
Well, if that was me, I would have been like, yay! Because I've sold it for so much money, I've now bought 2 more full-size Daleks, and they'll be in the bedroom.
Yeah,
in each corner
on either side of the bed. That is a good point, actually, because you can buy official replica Daleks.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the price now, but they're expensive, but they're nowhere near as expensive as this. You probably could buy 2, or maybe 3 for that price. Yeah, because I remember looking at it before, thinking, that's quite reasonable, actually. Obviously it was a ridiculous amount of money, but I was thinking, it's not bad for a real Dalek. Yeah, I think it was like 10 grand, maybe. I'm not sure, but yeah.
There's a couple of companies here in the UK that make them.
That's right.
And I think they're around that. Yeah, somewhere between 7 to 10 grand or something like that.
Yeah, or 7,000. I can't remember now, but yeah. Okay, well, in other news, Mark Gatiss has confirmed he's writing for Series 10. I didn't exactly fall off my chair when I heard that. It wasn't really a surprise. Has he written a story for every series so far? I think he has, hasn't he?
I think so.
Yeah, he always seems to be there.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, the big thing with this is as soon as he confirmed that, everyone was saying, "Oh God, it's not going to be a sequel to Sleep No More, is it?" Because a lot of people in fandom will know this, that Stephen Moffat wants him to do that, wants him to continue that story. But I get the feeling that Stephen Moffat is very much in the minority in wanting that, from what I've seen online. And certainly, I don't know, certainly from my own point of view, I'm not too enamoured towards the Sleep No More sequel. Although, I don't know, Gary, you tell me how you feel, but there is a tiny, tiny bit of me, although that story was dreadful, in my opinion, there is a tiny bit of me that would like to see it go full circle. A tiny bit. But what about you?
No.
Okay.
That was one of the... Sleep No More is the lowest score that I gave any episode since we've started the podcast.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, I gave it a 1.
Did you give it a 1?
I gave it a 1, yeah.
What did I give it?
4.5.
Oh, God, I was being generous, yeah.
And I think if I remember back to that episode 65 it was, I think I've actually said that I absolutely categorically hate that story with a passion. I don't just dislike it. I think it's like one of the worst things that they've ever done in modern Who. It was just atrociously, terribly, unforgivably bad. Yeah. So I'm definitely not looking forward to a sequel of any kind.
No.
And it feels a little bit like, surely, I'm talking about, this is aimed at Stephen Moffat here, but surely you've had enough bad press and enough negative reviews and enough crap, flung your way about this episode. If it just for my personal thing, I would leave it dead in the water.
Yeah.
If Mark Gatiss came to me and said, "Oh, I'm thinking about writing a sequel to Sleep No More," I'd be like, "You need to get out of bed again, mate.
Yeah.
You need to go back to bed, erase that thought, get out of bed with a new one."
Yeah.
It's just, why would you revisit such an awful concept? I mean, it's not just the episode itself. It's just the story and the characters were just...
Oh, the characters were awful.
Just terrible and really badly written. And it was no substance at all. It was just all...
The porridge monsters.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe they've had a couple of pints and he said, "Look, you've really got to sort this out. It's a bit of a black mark on your name.
Yeah.
So do you want the opportunity to make good on that, big pile of brown stuff that you but even, I don't know, maybe that's probably not how it went, because Stephen Moffat must have liked it to put it into production in the first place. So
it does make you wonder, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I was going to say it wasn't a great episode. We both agreed at the time. I'm not really excited by either of those prospects. I haven't really got anything against Mark Gatiss, but it's just that his episodes always fall so flat for me. Well, pretty much all of them. So I'm just kind of, there's nothing against Mark Gatiss, but as soon as I heard that news, it's just like, can we please get some fresh blood on board? Because Series 10 is already starting to sound a bit dull. I need something, because we've also heard this week mention of that Clara might be making some sort of appearance. I'm thinking, for goodness sake, give me something fresh. Let's have some fresh writers, some fresh ideas, instead of the same old. So that was kind of my feeling on it. But what do you think of this Clara thing, by the way?
Yeah, when I read that, I was like, well, I discounted it as just rubbish at first. But then I thought about it. I thought, if that is true, if Clara is, that's just another example of why we desperately need a new showrunner to be on board, because I think as long as Moffat is still behind the wheel, we're going to have these recurring just pieces of rubbish,
stale ideas.
Yeah, it's he clung on, to Clara for so long, and just wouldn't let it go. She should have been gone like 2 series before she was actually gone. Yeah. He should have just cut loose, gone, and that was it. But he just has this attachment to just dragging stuff on for so bloody long. So if that is true, if this Clara thing is true, it's a massive disappointment, because, she really, really, really has to be gone.
Yeah, why can't he let it go? It's almost as if he's frightened to move on, isn't it? It's a bit like when he brought Matt Smith back in Deep Breath for that end scene, which actually turned out to be all right, but it was a bit like that. It's like he felt he needed Matt Smith in it to, he couldn't let it stand on its own. And it feels a bit the same as this, as if he's worried that, he can't let the series go on without having a mention or some sort of flashback to Clara. I mean, we don't know. It might be nothing. It may be the Doctor's just going to hang a picture of her on the TARDIS wall and it'll just be that. It could be anything. We don't know. But yeah, let's hope it's... let's hope he lets it go. Let it go, yeah.
I mean, there was... RTD did this a little bit when he was showrunner, because we had, at the very end of The End of Time, Part 2, we had this thing where all of his characters sort of came full circle, where he went back and saw Captain Jack and saw Rose, and we saw Mickey and Martha and stuff, So he did that. But that was more sort of right at the very end of that sort of era of Russell T Davies. He didn't. I mean, I know Rose came back for what was it? The end of what was it for the whole Turn Left thing with Donna and
but that worked really well.
That was like that was a cool little sort of insert, to bring because Rose was a very popular companion, and I'm sure that there are people at the BBC who have like specific jobs to measure like social engagement with the show. And what characters are registering well out in like the social landscape, and what fans are picking up on and what they're liking and disliking. So, there would have been a lot of feedback saying, Rose is really popular. If you want to bring her back, it's all good. But I'm pretty sure that people would have been saying to them off, like, look, Clara, people are getting fed up.
Yeah.
I understand that you want to do what you want to do and it's your show and stuff, but, just a bit of heed a bit of caution here. We're getting like loads of bad stuff on social and everything. Just let her go.
And what's interesting is even people that like Clara have said, she's done. Yep. I mean, I know like, people who are really big fans of Clara, like some of the people who follow me on Twitter, they are, even their Twitter account names are Clara based. They are big Clara fans. But even a lot of these people I see are saying, look, we love Clara, but her story is done. And a lot of them feel it should have been done in Face of Raven, which I totally agree with. I was thinking the other day when they talked about this, how that would have been so good if they had just actually gone through with that ending for her, because I just love the bit where Capaldi turns mean at the end and he's like, over what's just happened. I was just thinking that was just such a good and sort of almost shocking send-off for a companion that we just don't get.
True. Yeah.
It had to be rewritten, and it was so predictable that it was rewritten. It was just like, Anyways, so she might be back.
Yeah.
We don't.
She might be back. She probably will be back if it's Stephen Moffat. Anyway, we'll keep you updated if we hear anything on that.
Yeah.
Right, that's news done. Before we crack on with our Big Finish review, we've been talking to our friends at Big Finish, and they've given us a really cool box set to give away as a comp. So we're going to do that.
Yes.
The War Doctor first box set, Only the Monstrous, which got really good reviews.
I really enjoyed it. It's
You've
good.
got this, haven't you?
I have, yeah. Really, really liked it. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it a worthy box set to give away to a listener?
Oh, it definitely is. I'll tell you. It's no, I genuinely really, really enjoyed listening to this from start to finish. Particularly the first story, I liked it. I found John Hurt to be quite. I think I might have said this way back when we were talking about. He's like encompasses the grumpiness of Hartnell, but still being likable.
Yeah,
and he's very, very touchy in the first story, but he's still really, really charming. I loved it. I was sort of laughing and enjoying it all the way through. Yeah, it's a good set, this one.
Yeah, it's cool. So yes, we're going to give this away now. Just to give you some terms and conditions on this one. So with Big Finish now, whenever they supply stuff for competitions and stuff, for their audio stuff, they no longer send out physical CDs and stuff to competition winners. So if you are the lucky listener to win this one, you need to have a Big Finish account, or if you don't have one, you can set one up. And then what will happen is we'll speak to Big Finish, give them your details, and then they will just put this box set into your account. So then you can download it, listen to it on the app, on your phone, whatever you like. But it'll be yours. You just won't get the physical copy. So it's the MP3 digital stuff.
Yeah.
So that's the deal with that. Secondly, question for you to actually win this thing. So in the 50th anniversary episode, when we very first see the War Doctor, he takes a Gallifreyan rocket launcher, laser fiery thingy, and he blasts some words into the wall. What were those words? What were those words, Adam?
I can see it now. I can see him blitzing those words into the wall now. Yeah.
Yes. Obviously, don't tell me what those words are.
No, I won't say it.
Yes. So what we need to do is just jump onto Twitter or Facebook or email, take your pick, whatever you like, and just give us your name and your answer, and we will pick out the winner next week. Yes.
Good luck with that.
Yes, we'll do that next week.
Good set.
It's a good set indeed. Rightio. Let's crack on with our very first Big Finish review. Adam, my good fellow, what are we reviewing this week?
Well, Gary, this week we will be reviewing the 10th Doctor Adventures.
You're talking, but it's all geek to me. Can we go?
Yeah, I suppose. Then again, robots running amok.
Donna, we're on.
Hello there.
Ah, a stranger.
Oh, friend you haven't met yet.
Who are you?
I'm someone who unties girls from chairs.
Donna Noble, Enchante.
Oh, no, don't do that. Goritania, who made that one?
So, the 10th Doctor's Adventures, I don't know about you, buddy, but it's one thing reviewing like a Tennant episode that's been on TV, but when you kind of know in the back of your minds that he's been away and not been involved in Doctor Who since the 50th episode, just before we get into the details of each story, did you have that feeling when you were listening to it that it was like the last David episode was last week or yesterday on TV?
I did. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I was going to say, without sort of going too much into it before we get to the stories, it really does have I think from the second that theme tune kicks in, and you said recently how great the theme sounds, the 10th Doctor theme is just thumping. Yeah, as soon as that theme kicked in, and then the Doctor and Donna explode back onto audio, it is just like they've never been away. And it real nostalgic buzz from this almost within the first few minutes. I was just sat there like oh wow, it's like going back in time almost. Yeah
I totally got that, because the very first sort of minute of audio from the first story, all it is Donna really having a chat with this person, that this other temp. She's in this building at the moment, this company's building, and it's not until sort of the last 20 seconds that David Tennant pops up, and they have this little bit of banter and stuff. And then, like you say, the theme tune kicks in, and oh God, just the biggest grin. Just it was like I was like the Joker from Batman for like 5 minutes while I was listening to it. And as soon as that theme kicked in, and then even when it finished, and then you know, those two were back into it, it was like, wow. It's we'll probably mention this later, but just the strength of the you know, the energy and the chemistry between those two. It's just plain to see that it doesn't matter what they're doing, audio, TV, whatever. It's just there. It's unmistakable, and it's amazing. So it was a real big nostalgia hit for me. Listening to the theme tune as it kicked in, and then it was just like it was like, you know, when you listen to audio, you create the images of what an episode might look like in your head. I don't know if you do that, but when
totally.
It was clear to me that the whole thing was written very much in that whole vein of what it was when they were on TV.
Yes.
So the 3 stories that this box set is made up of, each one is very, very much a typical Dr. Donna story. I don't know if you found that, like the way it was written and the story, it was like it was a very, very fast paced, very shouty at times, very, very funny story. And I think it was written to reflect their times on TV.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I was going to say it does slip in very nicely with the TV show.
Yeah.
I was going to say it doesn't feel like a different production at all, which is really, really good. You know, it doesn't feel like you're listening to sort of somebody reading an audio book or anything like that. It really does fit nicely in with the TV series, which is, you know, credit to Big Finish. I must admit, I kind of sort of expected it to, in a way. I think Big Finish have got such a high standard these days that you kind of almost just assume it's going to be good, but you should never do that, because even, you know, there's always a chance that things might not turn out how you expect. But I kind of just thought, I suppose what I'm trying to say is I knew that we were in safe hands with Big Finish producing this. And at the end of the day, I don't think they've let us down. I think they've produced a really good set here, which, fits really nicely in with the TV show. So
it does indeed.
Hats off.
Right. So, let's get into some details about each story. So there's 3 of them, it's a 3-parter. They're not linked together in any way.
No, which is good. They're all standalone, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, which is good, actually, because when this was very first announced, for some reason I thought it would be like a Dark Eyes thing or Doom Coalition, where it was like a very long story. But no, it's 3 very nice little isolated stories, directed by Nicholas Briggs. Written by Matt Fitton, Jenny Colgan, and James Goss, in that order for the episodes.
I can imagine Nick Briggs was so excited when they got the rights to do the 10th Doctor adventure. I bet he was just couldn't, you know, because I know he's wanted to do something like this for a while. I bet he was so pleased when they got the rights to this.
Yeah,
I bet he couldn't wait to get going.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because if you read, when I got the actual physical stuff through the post, and they pop in the Vortex magazine, which is their newsletter, they're actually saying that it took over a year to get David Tennant on board.
Because he's such a busy guy.
Well, yeah, because he's so busy, and then a date would free up when he could do it, but then Catherine Tate wouldn't be available. So it was on the cards from sort of very early sort of mid 2015, I guess.
Yeah.
He said then they had to put stuff back because there was a leak about it, and you know they didn't want to launch stuff around the leak, so they put it around again, and then they rewrote some of the stuff. So it was like, I can imagine it being a really long build up, and just that, because some of the other actors, Tom Baker and Paul McGann and stuff, I imagine he still gets the same enjoyment out of making stories and producing stories for those guys. But to have somebody like David Tennant, who's been in Modern Who, and it's like their first big license for, you know, for Who other than John Hurt from the modern stuff, it must have been a huge build up, like you say. So, and to have that sort of ongoing, like, you know, are we going to get him? Are we not going to get him? And probably from a writer's perspective as well, that's a lot of time to sort of overthink your story.
A lot of pressure as well, isn't it? You're thinking, oh no, because this no doubt will have brought quite a lot of new people on board to Big Finish, I would imagine. And so, they sort of got to sort of pitch it right. I'm sort of thinking back to when RTD brought the show back. They've got to sort of pitch it to bring new people and all the sort of, regular listeners and people who watch on board as well. So you've got to try and get a middle ground there. Probably, like you said, quite a lot of time to build up that pressure.
Yeah, absolutely.
But thankfully, I think they've, on the whole, got it right on this.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. So Nick Briggs would have been just completely to actually get them, the pair of them in the studio, and then just to start that audio off and hear them doing their lines must have been like such an amazing feeling.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the stories. So it's made up of 3 individual stories, which is Technophobia, Time Reaver, and then Death and the Queen.
So and you can buy them all individually.
Okay.
Or you can get them as the box set, like we've got with the extra 2 discs of like bonus stuff.
Yes. The behind the scenes is actually pretty good.
It's really good. Yeah, I was going to come on to it sort of at the end, but it is. I listened to it just literally 2 days ago, and it is really good fun, actually.
Really in depth as well.
Mm.
So we might as well do it in order. So let's kick off with Technophobia.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the one where it was sort of make or break for the 10th Doctor coming back, because like we said, I think we said before we started recording, most people would have got the box set. So
I think so.
Unless you've gone into the box set and missed this one out, so gone into like one of the other stories, 99% of people, this will be their very first. David Tennant, Catherine Tate on audio for Big Finish, like his first one. So for me, this was like the make or break one. This was, if they didn't nail this and get it right from the off for the first one. So loads of pressure, like we were saying, on those guys to get the story right. And in terms of plot, it's a very, like we were saying earlier, it's a very, not predictable, but it was a very expected kind of story for those 2.
Yeah, I think they've purposely made the first story quite easy to follow, which is nice, because I found myself quite engaged in this, because sometimes Big Finish, they do get a bit more complicated, and it is easy if you're doing other things to sort of zone out and then wonder what's going on, that sort of thing. But I think with Technophobia, it's a fairly straightforward story, quite simple, as you say, but it does have quite a nice twist to it in a way. In terms of, because it's all about technology, isn't it? It's all about technology sort of taking over the human race. You think, oh, okay, that's pretty standard. But it actually turns out that really it's, there's more to it than that. So it does have a slight twist to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a nice, easy, I think it's like you said, I think it's a perfect story to start the set, because it just is nice and easy to follow, I think. Yeah,
that's one of the things that I thought about the most is it's a great introduction to, because there could be a load of Big Finish listeners who, for one reason or another, might not watch much of the show on TV. So this is their very first experience with the 10th Doctor. So even if you're kind of new to Doctor Who, say if you just, a friend last week recommended some audio stuff to you because you're really into audio, but you just haven't watched Doctor Who before, this is a really, really good kind of set-up story for those 2 characters, because while it doesn't go into, it's not like a typical brand new thing where it has to spend loads of times on backstory and explaining who the Doctor is, and because let's face it, this stuff will cater for Who fans who are very aware of what this is all about. But even so, just as an isolated audio adventure, it's a really good setup for the characters. You understand immediately the relationship between the Doctor and Donna.
Yes, yeah.
It's traveller, companion, that's it. You immediately understand, that they know each other very well. They're very funny together and all that. So that's one of the things that I thought about a lot while I was listening to this and afterwards. I was like, wow, that was a really, really good introduction to these 2 and to that sort of little pocket of Doctor Who. So even if you hadn't seen the show before, it's a really, really good sort of adventure.
Yeah, that's it. They basically, yeah, I know what you're saying. They basically just jump straight into it, don't they? Just straight into this little adventure. That's, yeah, I suppose you're right. Anybody could just listen to it. Don't necessarily need to know backstory, although Doctor Who, but chances are most people who are listening will. But yeah, it's that straightforward. It's, I think, like you said, they've pitched it right to bring in new listeners that perhaps haven't listened to Big Finish before, that you know, that like the 10th Doctor and thought, oh, okay, what's this then? There's a bit of a buzz. I'll give it a go. I think this would have, you know, brought them in quite nicely, actually. Yeah, Matt Fitton's a good writer. I mean, he does a lot for Big Finish. So a bit like I was saying earlier, I think you sort of think you're in safe hands with him. I think when they thought, right, who should we get to do the first story? I think he's a good choice. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. And the story in general is quite simplistic. There is a little bit of a twist, like you say, but essentially there's a company who are kind of, I guess they're like a Google or an Apple type of vibe, because they're like this really massive technology-based company that is selling something called the M-Pad, which is basically a tablet like an iPad, and they've developed this very advanced kind of AI, if you like, where you can use your tablet with like voice commands and it talks back to you and all that stuff. So it's one of those sort of tech fear, sort of Cyberdyne Terminator kind of stories where, you know, if we're not careful, then sort of AI will sort of take over the world. But then, like you say, it has this twist where it's not really the AI, is it? That's the problem.
No,
it's, you know, because at first, when I was first listening to it, I was like, oh, there's like this sort of menacing calculator somewhere that's, you know, controlling, you know, starting to take control of all the computers and electronics and stuff. But it turns out it's the work of these aliens, and what they're called, the aliens were called cognoscetes.
Something I was going to say. I didn't write it down actually, and I can't remember off the top of my head.
And what it is, so they're actually like sort of flipping people's minds around, aren't they? Where they're not sort of extracting people's minds and doing stuff to them like a Cyberman thing. They're actually taking away people's how they perceive technology and electronical things and making people really scared of them. So it's like a real sort of is it kind of reverse psychology where?
Well, that's what I was trying to think. It was along those lines. Yeah, I was going to say it pretty much is. That's what I kind of like about it. You think it's one thing, but actually it's sort of the opposite in a way. Yeah,
and it's like we live in a world today where technology is just everything and second nature. And we absolutely are not scared of it at all because we rely on it and, you know, we use it every day. So it kind of flips that on its head, where instead of making the machines and the devices like the villain or the monster, it reverses people's brains so that they get scared of everyday things like iPads and escalators and lifts and stuff like that. So that's like a TV worthy idea right there. You know, like we've said, and we'll probably say many times, that the standard of the Big Finish writing and the ideas that they have and the stories are top notch. So that's like the overall kind of thing for this particular story.
Yeah, and like I said, it's a nice, simple idea, but one
really simple. Yeah,
it's sort of thing. Yeah, it's quite obvious, but it works really, really well. In terms of, you know, how they use it and the fact that everyone's like terrified. Like I said, it sounds a bit comical when you say, like, you know, scared of the tablet and that, but it's more about basically technology just completely being used to sort of take over, and how would you deal with that? You know, if you think about now, me and you sat down, we are now both of us, aren't we, surrounded by technology to record this podcast. So if you imagine that all turning in on us, you know. How would we deal with it? So it's kind of like that, really, which is, it's a good little idea.
It is a great idea. And let's get into some of the character stuff. So I thought the Doctor's sort of figuring out phase was really good, because he can't fathom what's going on early on, can he?
No.
So he has this sort of period where it's very much detective mode, which is one of the great things about Doctor Who, where we have this sort of piecing together all of the puzzles and stuff. So the Doctor and Donna, they have this this usual banter between them and the support characters. And we'll come on to the Doctor in a little while. But one of the things I liked about Donna in this particular story was that they had written her exactly the same as in the TV show, where, because, you know, with when you move over to certain mediums, and Big Finish have done this with some of the older classic Doctors, where they try and change things up a bit, and, you know, they need to keep it fresh for, you know, to keep stories going. So they try to take the characters off in slightly different directions. Maybe some characters have a bit of a darker side to them, or, you know, they, especially with people like Colin Baker, like his Doctor can be very different in Big Finish than what it was. Oh yeah,
and also Nyssa. There's a massive backstory with Nyssa in Big Finish, which is a million miles away from, you know, what was going on the TV series. So yeah, they do tend to do that. But
yeah, with these two though, it's exactly because Donna's got this very strong, independent, still not taking any nonsense from the Doctor, and she teams up with this support character. I think her name was Bex.
Yeah, Bex with an X.
Bex with an X. Yeah.
Which is so Doctorish as well. Just even that little simple thing, because the Doctor keeps saying it, doesn't he? He's like, it's Bex with an X. You know, it's so 10th Doctor. Really nice sort of little characterization that Matt Fitton has, you know, picked up on there.
Yeah, and it's good sort of chemistry and banter with her as well, because Donna does this. She keeps coming back to this being a temp sort of thing, and she's like, Temps United sort of thing. So Donna's really strong, independent. She goes off with Bex, doesn't she? Because they're off to investigate. She needs to take Bex to see, I think it's her gran or her granddad, to make sure they're okay. But they sort of get trapped along the way.
Becomes Donna's companion.
Almost, yeah. Almost. Yeah, it's like Donna's little sort of protege. She's like...
They like the fact she likes the fact they're both temps, doesn't she? She's, you know, she's sort of got something in common with her.
Yeah. They do have that very common ground, don't they? So in terms of the story, the reason why they're able to go off and find out and stuff is because these aliens have been using the devices over a length of time, exposing people to these sort of mind manipulation. And because the Doctor and Donna have just landed, and this character Bex has been on holiday for weeks, and they've all just sort of come together, they haven't had this exposure. And that's one of the things that was kind of scary about this episode, because we saw like people screaming and running around and being absolutely, like, literally terrified of like their own phone or something mechanical that's moving. So these two, they haven't had that exposure, so they're able to go off, and that then unlocks another character, doesn't it? So we get to hear is it the Irish guy who works down on the tube stations?
Is it Kevin, or am I thinking?
Kevin, yes, I think it's Kevin. Yeah. So we get interested. So we start off with Donna and Bex. Then the Doctor jumps in. Then we get introduced to who's like the CEO of this technology company. It's a lady, isn't it? Her name is.
Is it Jill?
Jill. Yep.
Jill Meadows.
Jill Meadows.
Jill
yep.
Meadows. Yeah.
So we get introduced to Jill, and then Donna and Bex go off. Then we get introduced to Kevin. So it's got a nice progression to the story as it moves along. We get introduced to different characters, and it's not just sort of all at once. Like at the very start of the story, it's not like here's everybody and what's going on, and then we're going to go off and do that. So it's nice as you get through the story that, you know, they move to a different place and they meet another character, and the other character that we see is changing very much. The Jill Meadows character, because she's meant to be this very strong, powerful businesswoman.
And you don't know whether she's good or bad either, do you? She keeps you keep thinking, you're thinking, is she? Because she keeps saying she's this, that, and the other, doesn't she?
Yeah.
And you're sort of thinking, but is she? It's quite good. There's a good guessing game going on with her for quite a bit of the story, where you're just not sure. Not sure if you can trust her 100%. I think.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because she does have this kind of sinister
edge.
Yeah, you don't know if she's the one behind these devices turning people a bit nuts or zombified, as Donna puts it. So yeah, that's a good point. That's pretty cool, because a lot of the times, what was that episode, the Matt Smith episode where he shoots up the Shard on a motorbike?
Bella St. John.
Yeah, so that had the woman CEO, wasn't it, who was a bit shifty.
Yeah.
So she reminded me of her.
Oh yeah, I can see
character.
Yeah.
So you weren't sure. Yeah, you're right. You weren't really sure early on if she was behind it, but then we obviously find out that it's these aliens who are actually doing it through devices. So I really like the characters in this first story. They didn't overdo it. They didn't go in with like loads of characters, and the characters were quite likable as well. I really like Bex.
Yeah.
And I recognise her voice as well. The actress who played Bex, I recognise her.
The actress's name is Nikki Wardley. I don't know. Yeah, must admit I didn't recognise her, but she may well have been in others or done something on Doctor Who. But she is good. I liked Bex with an X. I thought she started because I wasn't sure the first sort of few scenes. I was thinking, was she a bit annoying? But I actually really, really liked her by the end of it because I like the interplay between her and Donna. I really, really liked the character of Bex with an X.
Yes, she's Catherine Tate's buddy. She was in the Catherine Tate show a lot.
That's right. I've just remembered. Yeah, she says on the making of, doesn't she? Yeah, of course.
She was really good. She had sort of a vulnerability to her, which I liked, and especially when there's a moment where her and Donna are going down into the underground, and it's Bex's mind that first starts to sort of react to this exposure, and she starts getting very afraid of going on the escalator, doesn't she? And
that's it.
Donna has to coax her on, and from that moment on, it's very, very. She's got like this inner strength, just like Donna. Because even when she's getting interrogated by the aliens a little bit later on, she's still very vocal and, assertive. But I really like the vulnerability where she flips from this very sort of strong, likable character, just like a previous version of Donna, if you like, to being like very, she doesn't really know what's going on and it's starting to scare her and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But she sort of comes good in the end, doesn't she? She sort of resists like the interrogation by the aliens and so on. And then so we're going to talk about the aliens in a second, but they get very angry with her. They get sort of like, why isn't this human sort of reacting as the others and all that stuff?
That's it.
And at the end, she comes good when the Doctor saves the day, obviously. Bex is one of the characters that is I mean, all the characters are saved from, Kevin, he doesn't die, Bex doesn't die. So yeah, she has this really up and down sort of character arc, which is really good. So let's talk about the aliens, I guess.
Yeah, I was going to say, because cast-wise, it's a nice little cast ensemble, isn't it?
It's like a little band of
good
peeps,
little characters. Yeah. So the cast is good. The aliens, what do you reckon? We don't get to sort of, they're not, although they're there, they're very much in the background, aren't they? They're sort of an underlying threat rather than being quite prominent in the story.
Yeah. I thought, one thing I really did like about them, and which is the same with all three of these stories actually, is that I really liked the voice acting and the effects that they used.
Yeah.
For these aliens. I'm not sure whether I'd want to sort of hear more of them throughout the story, because I thought that they cleared off relatively too quick.
Yeah, it's not quite as quickly as the Daleks in Victory of the Daleks, but pretty close.
Pretty close, yeah. So that was the one thing I've got that actually on notes. That was the one thing that I wish they'd have changed the ending slightly to be a bit more of a battle there at the end. Yeah,
it does get wrapped up pretty quick. That's true.
So they did scarper fight quite quick, but throughout the story, I thought that having just the little snippets of when they were in it was quite good.
Yeah.
Maybe this would have been, if they'd have fleshed these characters out, the aliens, a little bit more. Maybe they could have made this into a two-parter or something like that, or had a longer story to sort of, because we don't really know much about these at all, do we?
No, not really. It's more about what they're doing. We don't really get to find out much about them themselves. No, true. But I wouldn't have wanted this to be a two-parter, because I just like it as a nice little short adventure. I think it's the idea of it is just to kick off the set and get you into it. So perhaps I wouldn't mind them perhaps coming back at some point, but I think, I don't know. I think they work really well as a, in terms of just this great little one-off adventure sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because it's pretty well paced, this, isn't it? It's a well-paced story. It doesn't, I didn't find myself zoning out much in this one at all. I was pretty much with it right the way through. So I thought the pacing was pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I was into it because I was keen to find out how the Doctor was going to sort of flick this around. Because like I said earlier, it takes him a little while to figure out what's going on and who's behind it and so on. But yeah, I mean, in terms of like a typical Doctor Who monster or an alien that you would see, they weren't amazing.
No, there's nothing
do you know what I mean?
Stand out about it. No.
They were just fairly like your sort of everyday. If you had to describe Doctor Who to somebody in 10 seconds, like, oh, the Doctor turns up at a location with his companion and there's a monster of the week kind of story, and then he saves the day and they go on to the next one. It's like that sort of vibe, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
And so the name, I knew I wrote it down somewhere. It's the Cognoscenti.
That's it. Yeah, see, I didn't write it down, which I was regretting when you asked me earlier.
Yes.
Yeah, the Cognoscenti. That's right.
So I quite like the name.
It's good.
It's a pretty good name. The only thing is, and I really like the voice acting with the aliens in this story, like I did with all three of these, but...
I think some of the cast pretty much did it themselves, didn't they? Because I think on the making of, there's one bit where they sort of have to talk to themselves.
Yes.
So you got to switch between human and alien, which is quite good fun. I can't remember. It might be Bex. I can't remember who it is now. It might be all of them. I think they all just chip in and do the alien voices. Yeah.
Yes, but they obviously shoved some effects on there afterwards.
Oh yeah,
and all that lot.
Yeah.
But it's really well done. It's not. Actually, there was a couple of times where I thought, oh, that's a little bit sort of theatre production there.
Oh really? Okay.
Yeah, just a couple of times. It was just a little bit like, you're really sort of really putting on like you're an alien, and stuff. But that was for sort of very few and far between. But overall, quite like these guys. I just thought they disappeared too quick, and I'd like to see more of where they're from.
No, a bit more about them.
Yeah, because this was just a very small band of this aliens, wasn't it? Of these aliens, because at one point in the story they say you're about to find out, or you're about to witness, a small band of cognoscenti fighters or whatever, taking over your planet. And there's a really funny scene, isn't there? Because they get onto our planet via their hub ship.
That's it, yeah.
Which is like a displacement in time, or sorry, not a displacement in time, a displacement in the transient dimensional thing. I can't remember the exact words that the Doctor says, but he has a real laugh with them, doesn't he? So not very well done, is it? Look, you see the crack in the... So we get like little explanations about how they're here and how they've done things and so on. It would have been nice to have known a bit more about them, basically.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
So
Aliens, pretty good. Perfectly suited for this because if we think about the bigger picture, this first story really needed to be about the Doctor and Donna.
Yeah, it just needed to be fun, didn't it? It needs to be a good little story.
Yeah, it didn't need to be a big mind melting thing where you had to overthink like, I'm really having to struggle to keep up with the story and I don't have to think too much. I just want to be entertained.
Exactly. Entertaining. Yeah.
So that was all good. Supporting characters were really good. So we had Bex, we had Kevin. I'm sure there was another couple of people as well. There was the guy that was
Brian
yep.
and Lucas, who not in it that much, but yeah, they're in it as well.
Yeah, they were like the service. Were they the engineers? The Brian and Lucas. They were who were they? They were the guys that were like fixing things.
Yeah, I was going to say they're not major characters, but yeah,
no, and they sort of helped the Doctor a little bit throughout the story. They don't pop up much, like you say. But again, really good performances from those guys. So really, yeah, like we said, this first story really is about the Doctor and Donna. So I'm assuming you're going to say the same. Just amazing chemistry as always, really good humour between the two of them, really perfectly written, just like we said, straight out of the TV show.
Absolutely. I think Matt Fitton does a great job of just capturing those little mannerisms of both of them, and they both, they seem to just slip effortlessly back into the roles. Just both really, really good in this. I think perhaps Catherine Tate perhaps just slightly edges it's just that little bit more than David. He does I think David by the third story is absolutely the Doctor, and he definitely is in this one. But Catherine Tate just seems to just be perfect as Donna. It's like exactly like she was on TV. And David Tennant the same. But perhaps Donna just slightly more. But yeah, both really, really great in this. And the script is really witty as well. They've got nice little moments in there which perfectly capture the Dr. Donna relationship. They're both great in it, I think.
Absolutely.
Which is a relief because you just sort of think, how long is it since they did this? And I don't know if they had a little warm up before or if they just, how hard it was to get back into it. But it seems like effortless. Like they were never away, I think was the phrase you used. And that's how it feels, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good, it's a really good indication and example of how just a fairly simplistic story can be when you've just got really, really good writing and characters. So it doesn't, we've said this loads of times, didn't we, when we've reviewed certain TV stories and episodes, that the potential is there, just maybe the writing let it down, or a certain character or whatever. But the thing that, and if you guys have not listened to any Big Finish before, that's one of the things that Big Finish is so good at, is like consistently well written, really good character stories. Because they can't really do much in terms of, in a TV episode, sometimes if you want to, highlight a certain character's feeling, you can do that just via a facial expression or a certain look or something like that, or some body language. With audio, you haven't got that tool to do it, so the writing has to be spot on, pretty much. Yeah,
because you have to sort of fill in the blanks, don't you? And that's all done within the writing. Yeah,
yeah. That has to be described to you so that you can magic the scene in your head. It's up to you to envision how you think it would look. So the writing has got to be spot on with Big Finish, because they haven't got all of that visual aid to do it. So, first story, Technophobia, brilliant.
I think, for an introduction to the 10th Doctor adventures on Big Finish, I think this one totally hits the mark, does what it needs to do. Really, really enjoyed it. Are we going to score these? Because I have written a score for each.
Okay. Yeah, we can score each one, and we'll give it like an overall average at the end or something.
Yeah.
So this was 8.5.
Bang on.
Oh, really?
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I put, 8.5. Yeah, really, really enjoyed this one.
Okay, cool. Next one, Time Reaver.
Time Reaver.
So the kind of general idea with this one was they land on a planet called I think it's Vicintia.
Yeah.
But they happen to be in a city or a place called Calibris, which I think is where the bulk of the story takes place. So what's happening is the people on this planet, I think the planet is like slowly eroding away or is being destroyed or something.
There's like a supernova.
Yeah, it's going to engulf.
It's kind of doomed. Yeah.
That's right. And when the Doctor and Donna arrive, they sort of very quickly get caught up in this kind of illegal sort of weapons racketeering. Because and the basis for the title of the story, the Time Reaver, initially before I listened to it, I thought Time Reaver was a character.
Same, yeah.
Which is quite clever from Big Finish. But it turns out Time Reaver is a weapon. And what it does is when you get shot, or if you get sort of caught in the blast of one of these Time Reaver bombs, to the outside world, time is moving as it normally does. But for you, time moves like incredibly slowly. So what you would normally do in 5 minutes might take you a year.
It's again another great idea, isn't it?
How cool is that?
It captures a moment and basically drags it out forever. So you're like, it basically sort of makes you, in a sense, just like close down, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's as if you've been put on pause and then slow motion. Everything's slowed, but everyone else it's perfectly normal. So it's just you.
Yeah.
And that's a really weird idea. I mean, the other thing that's good is they say you can use this weapon to also capture, it can be used for good and bad. So you can also capture a nice moment.
That's right.
And make it last forever. And I thought, wow, that's just such a simple, brilliant idea. I really liked that.
Yeah. And
But obviously it's used mainly for bad.
Mainly for bad, yeah. So yeah, cracking idea. So these weapons are being sort of bought and sold on this kind of like sort of black market, I guess.
Yeah.
Like smugglers and gangs, you know, are after them and stuff. And so there's a character called Cora.
Cora, yeah.
Yeah, she's like, she comes across as sort of Little Miss Innocent throughout the bulk of the story, but then we find out later on that she's the one that's been sort of supplying these Time Reaver weapons and so on. And I think, if I remember correctly, because I've only listened to this one once, if I remember correctly, she was doing it for a reason connected with her father. Her father was quite an important figure on the planet. And she was doing it because she just wanted to make some extra money or something, you know, and she didn't see it as like a terrible thing.
She's not a bad person. Yeah, I guess so. What she's doing is a bit unethical, but she's sort of at the heart of it doing it for the right reason. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she just wants to make her father's life, you know, more comfortable for the last time that they're going to spend on this planet, sort of thing, or something like that.
Yeah.
So she's not a bad guy. She's not a villain, but she just sort of gets swept up in this sort of illegal weapon selling and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So the main sort of villain, if you like, is the character that you would see on the front of the box set. So if you've picked up the box set, so not the individual cover for this particular story, but the one that we've seen for the last 6 months or whatever, it's like the octopusy looking alien thing.
He's very prominent on the cover. We were saying he looked like what is that thing we said he looked like? That old fashioned monster. You remembered last time I was like,
yes.
What's it called? There's an old black and white
Creature
film.
from the Black Lagoon.
That's it. Yeah, it looks a bit like that. Yeah.
But just with more suckers and tentacles.
Yeah.
So that's if you can cast your minds to the front, the cover for the box set. That's the alien that's in this story, and he's called Gully, isn't he? Yep.
Gully, yeah.
Gully.
So I was wondering who was doing the voice for it. Yeah, it's John Banks, because I have to say I found the voice quite irritating on this monster. It grinded on me after a while. It's weird because I knew that Terry Malloy was in it, and so just stupidly I naturally assumed he was going to be the bad guy. And he's not. He's actually playing Cora's dad, Roan. So when I was first listening to this, I've listened to it twice, and I kept thinking, the first time I was thinking, is that Malloy doing that? Because I don't know, it's very treated, but it's also a bit, I don't know, it didn't quite work for me, the alien voice in this. I found it a bit annoying, to be honest.
I was the opposite to you. I thought it was really good.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it had shades of, like, if you guys have ever seen the old Stephen King movie, It.
Oh, yeah.
With Pennywise the clown. It reminded me a lot of him.
Pennywise?
Yeah, like the voice and especially towards one of at the end of one of the segments in the story. There's a bit where he's like, I can't even do the voice properly. He's like, I want those weapons. I want them all. and it just reminds me so much of Pennywise the clown from it.
Okay.
But I really enjoyed that.
I found it a bit about theatre. But
really?
You were saying earlier about Alien Voice. Yeah, I found this one a bit too. I don't know. I must admit, I struggled with this story a little bit. Out of the three, this is the one I did. This is the reason I listened to it twice, actually, because I did the first time zone out loads on this. I must admit, I got to the end of it on the first listen, and I really hadn't got a clue what really had happened. I sort of got the gist of it, obviously, but I hadn't really sort of. Whereas with Technophobia, I'd sort of really got into it and liked it. This one I struggled with on the first listen. I just didn't. My mind just kept wandering. It wasn't. I didn't find it as engaging. I did like it more on the second listen. I have to say, I got into it a bit more, but it wasn't. I don't know, it didn't quite sit as well with me. I don't know if it's just because I enjoyed Technophobia so much that this one didn't quite live up to it, if you know what I mean. It didn't sort of have to follow on from that, and it didn't quite do that for me. But
okay.
But yeah, I still enjoyed it. But one thing I don't know. The alien voice just started to grate on me after a while. I just, if I was Donna, I would have just been like, "Oh, shut up!" You know what I mean? I just was like,
yeah,
it just wasn't quite working for me in that sense.
Oh, okay, no, I read you. So we're not going to talk about the Doctor and Donna too much in detail on these other two stories because they're fairly consistent throughout.
Yeah,
we'll speak out a few things, but we're not going to, So Gully is the sort of gang leader, isn't he? He sort of runs this gang of other aliens on this planet, and he's a bit of a bad dude, isn't he? He's like if you can imagine, because there's a scene where because we get introduced to Gully before this, but there's a scene where the Doctor really wants to go to this place. I think it's called Vagabond's Reach.
That's right, yeah, because
right?
Donna wants to go to the planet of the boys.
That's right, yeah.
He's like, oh, for goodness sake, yeah.
Yeah, so he wants to go to this place called Vagabond's Reach. And to me, in my mind, that conjured up like a cantina scene from Star Wars or something like, if you've seen Pirates of the Caribbean, they go to this place where it's just full of bad people, lots of dodgy deals going on. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's that I conjured up that kind of place. Where they're going to find this guy. And I think the reason why I mention it is because this guy, Gully, he really doesn't take any nonsense from anyone, even the Doctor. Because even when they go in there, because as soon as they arrive, there's like a punch-up and there's people getting thrown around. There's a bit, like literally straight away, where it's just action straight away, where Gully's like, I'm not talking, I'm not having any messing around. Guys, sort them out. And that's kind of you rarely hear about that in Doctor Who stories, because normally when the villain and the Doctor first meet, there's like this sort of vocal build up between the two of them. You have the Doctor trying to suss out what's going on. You have the alien who's like got this James Bondness about him, where he's got like his evil master plan, and he's obviously not going to tell the Doctor, but there's like conversations going on. But in this, it's just pretty much it's like an action movie.
Yeah,
for a lot of it.
I know what you mean. I guess the other thing that I did write down was I did find it quite shouty. Like you said, there's a lot of action going on, but the Doctor and Donna are quite shouty in this. I think, remember when we heard the trailer, people were saying, "Oh God, I hope they're not like that all the way through." And thankfully they're not. But I think in this story, they're the most sort of shouty Doctor Donna that we get. But a lot of that is because, like you said, there's quite a lot going on in terms of action. Yeah. Yeah,
I kind of agree with that. And I think we had said about that before this box set came out. We said, like, is it going to be, very shouty, like in typical 10th Doctor and Donna fashion? And I think out of the three stories, this is the one that's probably, the most like that, would you say?
Definitely, without a doubt. Yeah. I've also just noticed I put a note saying that the alien sounds a bit like Syl with a cold.
That's a good point.
It did have a little bit of Syl to the voice, didn't it? Yeah.
No, I read you. Yeah, that's a good point. So, anyways, the main story revolved pretty much around Gully has got these Time Reaver weapons that he's bought from Cora, and is now just playing Mr. Bad Dude. The Doctor and Donna. They can see harmless people obviously getting affected by these Time Reaver weapons, so they're trying to go after Gully to stop him. And then we just have this little backstory or side story, if you like, about Cora and her dad and the reason why.
That's it.
And that sort of thing. So in terms of support characters, this is going to sound really weird, but I didn't realise that Terry Malloy was playing the character Roan.
Well, no, it doesn't sound weird because as I said, I didn't realise until the second listen. I just assumed he was the bad guy and that they'd treated his voice. But no, I didn't realise until after either.
Yeah, and I also didn't realise that Dan Starkey was playing Dawn.
Yeah, because he's doing a bit of a governor voice, isn't he? Because he's like a mechanic.
But do you know what? That's a good thing, though.
Yeah,
because that's like really good voice acting where you can put on a character consistently throughout the entire story, and then at the end you're like, wow, that was Terry Malloy, or that was Dan Starkey.
Yeah.
So that's probably one thing to sort of bear in mind. If you've seen like the casting list for this and you think, wow, I'm really looking forward to Dan Starkey because I really like Strax and how he sounds, and Terry Malloy's cool. You won't get it. You won't get that. No. So casting wise, really good. I really like Cora. She's had this real sort of innocent. She was almost like not a companion, but she was almost like a sort of character that you could see the Doctor wanting to help out and sort of.
Yeah, there is a bit of a companion thing going on in this set, isn't there? I think. Yeah, she is a little bit of companion like. Yeah, because I'm thinking in the next story he kind of gets a bit of a companion as well. So there's a bit of a running theme going on there. I think. Yeah, maybe unintentionally, but yeah, Cora's good. I liked her. Sabrina Bartlett played the part of Cora. Does a good job. Once again, it's quite a small cast ensemble. But they all gel pretty well, I think.
Yeah. And Soren, which is Cora's dad, really sort of nice.
Isn't Terry Malloy her dad?
Oh, sorry, no, yeah,
yeah.
Sorry,
Roan.
Roan is her dad. Sorry, really nice chemistry between those two. There is a scene later on in the story which I'm not going to talk about, which is quite emotional. It's quite a, again, just another great example of really well written story, because the pace slows down to a really nice level around this point in the story, because it is a very action paced, fast paced story. This one, it does go quite quick.
And also at the end, I don't know if you found this, there was a point where I thought it had kind of wrapped up.
Yes.
And then it carries on. And sort of, I thought we were, like you said, it sort of winds down, and I thought, oh, okay,
yeah,
that's the end. And then there's like another sort of bit,
yeah.
And also we got the impending doom of the supernova. So we assume that although things, obviously, the Doctor, manages to save the day, if you like, but we also get the feeling that he doesn't meddle with time, because although we don't get to sort of hear it, see it, whatever. Mm-hmm. We just assume that after he's left, they all get obliterated by the supernova, as they were supposed to. So he doesn't, he doesn't sort of change things. But which is quite, it's another layer to the story, if you like, I suppose, which is good.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a sort of bittersweet victory for the Doctor in this one, because I mean, it's hard to describe without going into too much detail. And we did say that we would sort of talk about the stories in general, but we wouldn't go into like really big detail or anything that would be a big spoiler for the story. But the end, I mean, obviously we can talk about the monster at the end, because I want to talk about the death scene for the monster at the end.
Yeah.
Because as we know, the Doctor's going to save the day, so we know the monster's going to go. So we're not spoiling anything there, but because of the nature of these weapons, these Time Reaver weapons, like we said earlier, when you get shot by one or whatever, time slows down massively for you. And the death scene for Gully at the end is quite horrific.
Yeah.
Because if you can imagine you've climbed up a ladder, and then below you there's a fire broken out or a bomb's gone off. And below you, within a split second, you can see flames heading your way. If you can imagine that in like super, super slow motion. So you're going to die because you can't move your body because your time has slowed down so much. So all you can do is sort of watch as flames engulf your body and kind of, kill you in slow motion. And I thought it was absolutely brilliant that the whole nature of what this story was about, these really awful weapons that the Doctor was very, very insistent on, confiscating or destroying and sorting out, because I think he said they'd been made illegal across pretty much every galaxy and system and stuff. So they're really quite horrific things. And because, like I said earlier, this bad guy Gully is very ruthless and no messing around, it was kind of good in the end to see him, almost suffer in that way. I know that sounds very sort of...
Well, you mean get his comeuppance?
His comeuppance, yeah.
Because it is a horrific, if you really think about it, it's a horrific death, but he's a bad guy.
He's bad,
but I do think so, yeah. It's quite a thought, isn't it? Yeah.
And what do you think to, just very quickly, the Doctor and Don in this one? as good as the first story? Do you reckon?
No, I don't. I mean, I still think they're really good. Sorry, don't get me wrong. They are still really good, but yeah, a little bit too shouty. But again, down to the script, not really them. They're still giving a really great performance. So, yeah, I didn't enjoy them as much as in Technophobe because they got a bit more room to breathe, whereas this, they're very much on the go and it's all kicking off. But yeah, still really, really good. Don't get me wrong, but I preferred them in the first story,
Yeah, I kind of felt that. I thought that the actual story, the execution of the story and all that stuff was on par with the first one. It was very well done. But just it didn't feel like they were as sort of in control as they were in the first story.
Yeah, exactly.
But a really classic little ending line from the Doctor, which is very Russell T Davies at the very end, where he's like, "Eternity, I hear you calling, but you will not have me yet."
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
And he says it in such a great, typical David Tennant way as well.
Yeah.
Cracking little line at the end there. So Time Reaver, what are you giving this one?
Your turn to go first.
7.5.
Okay, slightly lower, 7 for me. 7,
right.
Yeah, I must admit, it benefits from a second listen. I think on first listen, I actually wrote 5 out of 10.
Oh, really?
When I was making my notes, I wrote 5 out of 10. I didn't get it at all. So I'm glad I gave it another listen because it definitely did benefit from a second listen. So it went up by 2 points. So yeah, I get 7 out of 10 for me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. Lastly, we're going to talk about the third story, which is Death and the Queen.
Death and the Queen. Now,
Yeah.
I think this is the one that's most likely to divide opinion with people.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
But okay. What do you think?
So, Death and the Queen. I found this one the least enjoyable for me.
I had a feeling you would.
Yeah. I, don't get me wrong. When I say least enjoyable, I still loved it. So when we're talking about least enjoyable, I'm talking about, in comparison to like Technophobia or the other ones. So when I say least enjoyable, it's not like I hated it. I just, out of the 3, this was like the third one in the pecking order for me. And the reason for that, I still think it was a really good story. I found it a really good story. I just felt that this was the most predictable out of the 3 in terms of the story. This is the one that I thought, right, well, I can kind of guess what's going to happen here. Because for sort of the last half or the last third of the story, it's about Donna's going to be sacrificed.
Yeah.
And because we know that Donna wouldn't die, there's no way that they're going to kill off Donna. You knew fairly early on that that's not going to happen. So I was just more interested to see, how they would get around it.
I'm with you. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I must admit I had similar thoughts because the ending does very much is the crux of that is Donna's fate and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I remember thinking the same thing. Well, obviously she's not going to die.
Yeah.
But in terms of story wise though, it's very much Donna central, isn't it? She's very much central to this story.
Yes. Very much a Donna story, and it's this one is probably the most contained of the 3. This one happens all in the same place, pretty much. So, very, very briefly, the title of this story, Death and the Queen. As you can probably guess by now, Donna is the Queen.
It's a nice little intro isn't it, before the credits. Like, I demand to speak to the Queen, and then it's Donna like, yes.
Yeah. So Donna's the Queen, and she's betrothed to marry Rudolph.
Rudolph.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it turns out that Rudolph has genuine feelings for Donna, although initially it was a case of, yes, I'll marry her because we need to make a sacrifice.
Yeah.
So it's about this small, is it a small country or is it a small part of a country or something?
Let's go with colony. No, I don't know. Okay. No, I'm not sure, but I know what you mean. Yeah, this little.
Yep. And essentially over the centuries or millennia or whatever, there has been these aliens who have sort of masked themselves as the character of Death. And he turns up every so often and says, I require a soul. So they have to sacrifice somebody.
Yeah.
So this guy, Rudolph, actually gets genuine feelings for Donna, but his mother is very much like very, very much dislikes Donna and is more than happy to serve her up as the sacrifice.
That's it.
And then as the Doctor's kind of sidelined, as you say, it's a very Donna sort of focused story. The Doctor is very much just on the sidelines, jumping in now and then, figuring out what's going on. Gets it wrong at the end to begin with.
Yeah.
Very much gets it wrong, which is very, very funny. But then, all is well in the end.
It's a slightly Doctor light episode, isn't
Slightly,
it?
yeah.
It's slightly. I was going to say, but it is great when he does turn up, because I must admit, I really enjoyed this one, but I know it's going to be one that, because it's a bit lightweight, this story. So I think some people will just find it a bit too cheesy, maybe. But I don't know. I found the script really funny, and I just thought Donna, Catherine Tate was just fantastic in it.
Yeah.
I just was really finding it an enjoyable listen. I was going to say it's quite a light story compared to the other ones, but I loved it. I have to say, and when David Tennant is in it, the script is really good. The lines he delivers and the way he delivers them with Catherine Tate. I think what I did enjoy about this the most is just the chemistry between the two of them is just bang on in this story.
Oh yeah.
Even though the story is quite light, I think just the way it's written is just so funny. I really did enjoy it. I don't think it's the best story, in terms of the storyline, but I just found it a really enjoyable listen because of what was going on between the Doctor and Donna. I just loved it.
Yeah. That was the divide point for me, if you like, because just like you, I absolutely loved the Doctor and Donna in this one.
Yeah.
Even though they're not in it all the time together, when the Doctor does come into it, I would say this is the funniest one as well.
Definitely. I was really, I was going to say, I was really sort of smiling while listening to this. I just, it's James Goss, isn't it? Right. I just had to remind myself.
Yes.
Yeah. I just thought it's a real sort of sparkling little script. And it has got more layers to it than you might first think. Because as I say, at first it seems a very much play by number story, but it does have a bit more layer to it. Like it gets quite serious at the end, when Donna decides to sacrifice herself to save all the people, and the guy's like, well, either you sacrifice yourself or all these people are going to die. And there's a bit more to it. By the end of the story, but just overall, I just found it really enjoyable. Listen, I do think it's one, a bit like we were saying earlier with Unicorn and the Wasp. I do think it's one you sort of need to be in the mood for, because I think I was perfectly in the mood. It's just perfect for when I listen to it. But it's not one I would necessarily think I would listen to over and over again, like perhaps Technophobe, which I really, really enjoyed. I'd happily go back and listen to this. This would be one I'd put on when I wanted to have something a bit fun, a bit, not too taxing on the brain, that sort of thing.
Yeah. I totally agree, mate. And for me, it was one of those stories where I wasn't sort of too fussed by the story. It was good, don't get me wrong, it was a good story, and I really liked how the voice acting for the character of Death, I thought that was really, really good.
Yes, I'll agree with that one. Yeah, I liked this voice.
Yeah. But it was more for me. If the story was stronger, then this would have probably been like a really high up there 9.5 sort of 10 story, because Donna's so good in it and the Doctor's so good. And I'm not sure how where they went with this in terms of order of recording, whether they did it in order, so they recorded Technophobia first and so on. But I get an inkling that they did, because by this point, this third story, they were literally cooking on gas. It was like...
They're flowing, aren't they?
Yes.
Just completely flowing.
Absolutely, yeah. So this is the one, if you're really, really into like just strong character stories with the Doctor and his companions, and you really like the Dr. Donna sort of very funny, sort of... not really insulting each other, but very sort of lightheartedly throwing little digs at each other, and really just sort of get into it. Like the real good episodes that you know and love that they were in the TV show. This is that very much encapsulated into this audio story. It's so good between them. But just for me, I just wish that the story, I don't know, I can't really complain too much because this is their first outing, so they had to, for me, it's kind of 3 for 3. over the three stories. But I just wish that this third story was just a wee bit stronger, and just had a bit more sort of substance to it, maybe.
Yeah.
But
I was going to say, even though we knew Donna wasn't going to die at the end, I still because I was still thinking, but how is she actually going to get out of this? So even though I knew that, it's still strong enough in terms of that, it's not predictable, but obviously you're thinking, well, she's not going to die. Yeah. But there's a thing about the flags, isn't there? The sort of deaf can't handle the
sign of the
what do you call it? Emblem sign, yeah, which is quite a good little sort of makes you think of like a crucifix to a vampire, that sort of thing. It's like to death, it's the big no, isn't it? Which is I like that little element to it.
Yeah, and it's good that the Doctor sort of debunks this whole death sort of idea as well, because he sort of sees immediately through it, and it's they're called methostoles, these aliens, which is quite a cool name. And he sees right through it, and he's piecing it together. And one of the things that's I really did like about this story actually was it wasn't a typical build-up where we have the initial intro to the story, then we go through the middle act, and it's all sort of things are happening, building up, and then the end act, it's the Doctor saving the day, and off they go. We had this thing where the Doctor goes into it, and he's like, Donna, this is not about you. He's come for me. It's nothing to do with you. Very sorry. And it's even then, it's like really funny because he's like,
he's got it wrong.
Shut up if you can. All that stuff. It's all about me. And then it's like, well, no. We do actually want her. So the Doctor has this really big sort of grand, I'm going to save the day. Don't worry about it. Just go. He's after me. And then it just sort of collapses. And it's like, oh crap. So that's really good. I found that a real sort of refreshing change, if you like, rather than the Doctor sort of talking his way through the plan and saving things, and, which is good. But this was a nice little way of doing it. And it does again sort of highlight the companion's importance within it, because but what it doesn't do, which I really like about Big Finish, is that even though it highlights how important the companions are, it doesn't put them above the Doctor, which the TV show does a lot, especially with Clara.
Yeah.
And sometimes with Amy, where, it's at times it becomes the Amy show or the Clara show.
Yeah.
And, it's not about... So Big Finish, though, they sort of keep the reins on the companion, even though they highlight, some really good things about the companion and their importance and so on. It's always about the Doctor still. At the top of the pile sort of thing.
Yeah,
so that's really good. So in terms of like story and stuff like that, it does move along fairly okay. It's not as quick and paced as action-packed as the first two. It has quite a good big action scene where the Donna's having a big ruck with Rudolph because he's about to send all of his army out to get slaughtered, basically.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
She doesn't want it, and they have a little ruck, but it happens anyway. So that's a pretty good action scene between Death and these soldiers and so on, which is quite good. But the majority of the story is very, very dialogue based between the Doctor, Donna, and Rudolph. Sort of those three.
Yeah, we get Rudolph's mum chipping in, like the Queen mum. They're quite funny scenes as well, because she obviously hates Catherine Tate and can't wait for her to Donna, and can't wait for her to be sacrificed. Really.
Yeah.
So there's some quite nice scenes between them. Between the Queen Mum and Donna.
And we also have Donna's sort of maidens, sort of servants that she calls them. They play sort of keen sort of role towards the end.
And again, one of them becomes a sort of almost companion to the Doctor, because Doctor and the Donna aren't together that much in this story, are they? So he sort of is it the Beth Chambers character? I'm not
Chalmers,
sure.
Hortense,
yeah. She sort of she becomes a bit of a companion for the Doctor in a way in this one, which is good.
Yeah, and we've seen that in all three episodes. One of the supporting characters in each three of these stories does take on sort of a secondary companion or sort of mini companion role.
Yeah,
which is quite good.
Works good. Yeah,
so obviously the Doctor gets it completely wrong at the end, but then Donna sort of saves the day, I would say, in this one.
She's pretty heroic in this, I
Yeah,
think.
'cause
Yeah,
she
she's
kind of-
willing to sacrifice herself, isn't she?
Yeah, she's ready to throw down and sort it out without the aid of the Doctor. And he's very worried that she's going to do it as well. You know, towards the end, he's like, because he has quite a ruck, doesn't he, with the Queen Mum
Yeah, that's funny.
towards the end, because he's really miffed. Because that's one of the things that again was quite refreshing about this one, because throughout the entire story, the Doctor has been very sort of funny and witty and, you know, very jovial, that we, you know, the normal Doctor we expect from David Tennant. But in this bit, he's very, very unhappy.
Yeah.
Because he even goes for, you know, as far to say, like, you know, I'm almost tempted to not save you from this thing, because he's like, he actually says, you know, don't tell Donna I said this, but there are some people almost who aren't worth saving.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, it's a tiny little nugget there of like, ooh,
Of the darker 10 that we do sometimes see on screen. Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
So that was a nice little nugget they threw in there, which is like, oh, like, get the Doctor. So that was really cool. And then yes, this I'm not going to tell you how exactly this creature, this alien goes, but suffice to say, Donna goes to sacrifice herself. But yes, she's alive and well.
Yeah.
And then they're off. And so that's the end of the third story. And it left me wanting so much more.
Yeah, definitely.
And I sound like David Tennant there. I was so much more. But it did leave me wanting so much. I just felt like this is not enough. These three, because time does, this is going to sound very massive pun here, but time does fly when you're listening to these. Because I think they're about an hour long each, aren't they? Or just under
just
an
about
hour.
an hour. Yeah.
But I tell you, man, it feels like 20 minutes has gone past, half an hour. And then that's it, story's done. So I'm really, really looking forward to more of these two. And I'm unfortunately, because of their schedules, I think it's going to be quite a while.
It may be. I mean, they're obviously confident, though, because they've called this set Volume 1.
Yes.
Haven't they? The collected of the three, they've called it Volume 1. So that does suggest we've got some more to come. But it would be, I'm sure we will. And I echo your thoughts on that. I would love to hear more of this. I think they've done a great job with these stories. Death and the Queen, just to sort of wrap it up.
Yep.
In terms of storyline, it's a fairly straightforward story, but what makes it for me is the witty script that's written for David and Catherine. They absolutely embrace it. They're in full flow, and I just found it a really enjoyable listen. I'm going to give it. I've written 7 out of 10. Actually, that can't be right, because I enjoyed this a lot more than Time Reaver. That's because I changed it on the second. I'm going to give this. I'm going to go 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10.
I just really, I enjoyed it. 8 out of 10.
Okay, I'm going to go for a 7.
7.
And the reason for that is because I absolutely loved the Doctor and Donna in this, but I just felt like it could have done with more substance within the story.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I'm with you.
So just to recap then, so Technophobia, we both gave it an 8.5. Time Reaver, you gave it a 7, I gave it a 7.5, and then Death and the Queen, I gave it a 7, you gave it an 8.
Yeah.
So I would say as an average out of the three, the 10th Doctor Adventures, Volume 1 would be an 8 out of 10.
Yep, I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
8 out of 10 for the set. Really, really good. I was going to say, just quickly before we move on, the one thing I was wondering about before this got released was how they were going to do because the sound design's great. I think we both agree on all of these. The sound design is great. It conjures up what you need to hear and to realise what's going on. But I was thinking about the music, because obviously Murray Gold is so prominent in the 10th Doctor TV series. So I was thinking, so obviously they haven't got Murray Gold, and, you know, they do good instrumental music, but obviously there's quite a high standard there.
Yeah.
I have to say, I think the music in these stories, although it doesn't stand out anywhere near as Murray Gold's music, just does the job brilliantly. I mean, there was at no point where I was thinking it didn't feel like the TV series because, you know, of the sound design and the music. They did a great job, I think, with both. It totally fits. You know, it may not be that grandeur of Murray Gold, but the instrumental music in this is still really good. and totally suits like the era that they're trying to slot it in with.
No, I totally agree with you, mate. It's pretty much, if we're going to take David Tennant and Catherine Tate out of the equation for a moment and just talk about it purely just from a production from Big Finish, it's one of the many examples where they just nail everything in the production.
Yeah,
which they've done a lot. You know,
can't fault it at all.
So like the audio quality is just amazing. The music, like you say, really suits the stories. It's really good. The writing is superb. Even like, so like when we all got excited about the cover art. So the guy that does a lot of these ones is called Tom Webster, who pops up on the Doctor Who fan show now and then. You know, even the artwork is just amazing. You know, so you get the entire package with this. And if you've not picked up the special edition version either, the limited edition, sorry, that's still available.
Yeah, I was going to say, if you're wondering whether to get them individually or the box set, I mean, we've both gone for the box set. The behind-the-scenes disc, I think you'd agree with me, is really nice. It's about an hour long. The comedy between David and Catherine on the behind-the-scenes is just worth it to get alone. I mean, they are so naturally funny together on the behind the scenes disc. I really, really enjoyed it. It's much more than just going banging on about, well, we decided to write this, blah, blah. The interviews of Catherine and David are hilarious on the behind the scenes. And you also get a nice extra bonus disc, which is the Worlds of Doctor Who on Big Finish, which is just basically goes through their catalogue, and again is a really nice little disc to have. So I would recommend getting the box set just for those. They're really nice little extras. Yeah,
and that extra you spoke about, the behind the scenes, that's not just a little, we did this, and that's literally over an hour. It's longer than the stories themselves.
Yeah.
So it's over an hour, and it's got everyone on there. But the just like I was going to say off camera then, the off microphone chemistry and banter between the two of them, like you say, it's just like they are, in front of the microphone or the camera. It's just, you can tell they're great
clearly
mates.
Get on. Yeah, they get on. And do you know what I loved was the fact that Nick Briggs says that, this set kind of happened because of David Tennant, didn't it? David Tennant, once again, just being the brilliant ambassador for Doctor Who that he is. I mean, he really is a fan. There's no doubt about it. And we've talked about how good he is at keeping himself in the loop of Doctor Who, because he's been very successful outside of it. Let's not make any bones of it. If he wanted to leave Doctor Who behind tomorrow, he could. He's a successful actor, but he really likes keeping himself in the loop, clearly. And Nick Briggs was saying that, this set pretty much happened because he was recording with them for something completely different years ago, and said to him, well, when we're going to do Doctor Who? And Nick Briggs was like, well, would you be up for doing that? He's like, I thought all doctors did that, So basically he said, get it rolling. I'm up for it. Let's do it. Whenever you can get the rights, you give me a call and we'll sort out the schedule. So, kudos to David Tennant for just being so fantastic in terms of wanting to still be the Doctor, even though he's left, he still wants to be such a big part of it. And I just think that's fantastic.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I think in that behind the scenes, or in the Vortex magazine, I think it was David Tennant's idea to stick with the 3 individual stories. Yeah. He was like, I want to do a 3-parter where we get to explore as many different avenues for aliens and circumstances and settings and stuff as possible. He said, I'm not really keen on doing like a really big long story arc.
Exactly.
I really want to do these really cool little individual adventures. So he's absolutely into it, isn't he? He's, like you say, he really wants to carry on being the Doctor and keep his hand in and stuff. But
I think he might have suggested Catherine as well. I think he might have said, I'm pretty sure on the making of, he's like, he suggested Catherine would be a good one to bring in.
That's right.
And I have to say, I think she is the perfect choice for the Doctor and companion on audio, because they just work so well on audio. Because I was wondering if this set would have worked as well if it had been Rose. As much as I like the character Rose in the first series, I just think these two are just made for audio in terms of they are so good at it.
Yes, I would say that if it was written for Rose, it would be a completely different vibe. It would be more of a.
You can't imagine Death and the Queen being anywhere near as good.
No, not at all.
Donna. It's totally written for Donna's personality, and it works so well because of it. So.
I think if it was Rose, it'd be too emotional. It would be too.
It would be interesting to see, but it wouldn't be. Yeah, I just love this pairing on audio. I think they're absolutely made for it. I'll tell you what I would love to see, and I only mention this because I watched a review by our good friend Ben Lett, the host productions. He was saying how cool would it be if in the next set they bring Wilf into it, Bernard Cribbins. I was like, yes, please. I would definitely. I would love to see Bernard join this cast. Can you imagine how good that would be? So, fingers crossed. That would just be awesome.
It would be. And Donna does reference her granddad and her mum.
Yeah.
In the first story, Technophobia. She is talking to Bex about her granddad.
Bex with an X.
Bex with an X, yep. So before we get on to our listener reviews, I'd probably say if I think we both are in agreement on this. It's an absolutely recommended Big Finish set to get. Even if you don't want to spend a bit more money and get, the special edition with, all that stuff. Even if you just go on and buy the download, the stories and the characters are worth it, alone. So highly recommended set.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So as expected, we didn't get any audio reviews in.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yep. And we didn't get sort of many reviews. And that was, I sort of expected that because, out of, all the listeners that normally contribute and stuff, not, a very tiny portion of them would have picked up the Big Finish.
Well, it's still quite new set, isn't it? Because this is why we delayed it for a week or two. It's very difficult to know when people are going to get this and listen to it. But yeah.
But we did have some reviews in, which is good. So our good buddy on Twitter, Mr. George Garrity, who likes to send his reviews in over multiple tweets. It's good. He says, he's a Technophobia, great reintroduction to the Dr. Donna TARDIS team. Plot is thin and monsters seem generic. However, I do love the side characters of Bex and Kevin, despite the other being 2D. The first story gets a 7.5. He says, Time Reaver, fantastic story, full of great original ideas. I'm surprised the idea hasn't been used in TV yet. Which is a good point because
it is.
Yeah. Villain is great, but overshadowed by the weapon itself. Cora's character is naive and her twist is sad, but understandable. He gives it a 9 out of 10 for that one.
Okay.
But he said he hasn't had a chance yet to listen to the third story, Death and the Queen. And he makes a very big apology. He's sorry for that and all that stuff. But you know what? When you've got exams to do and all that stuff, don't worry about it. We fall very, very low in the priority pile for that stuff. So thank you very much for jumping on there and give us your review, mate.
Yeah, cheers, George. Be interesting to know what you think of Death and the Queen. I think it is one that will divide. People will either like it or find it a bit too comical, I think. So,
yes.
Yeah. Hope you enjoy it. Let us know.
So let us know. And then over on Facebook, Sammy Satine, she says, so 10 and Donna arrive at a museum a couple of years in the future where the technology is misbehaving and turning people who have had lots of exposure stupid. Who's behind it and can they stop it? They meet Bex, the temp and receptionist, who is awesome. They also meet a train driver called Kevin, who helps to save the day. The aliens, the cognoscenti, have creepy voices and are a good addition to the line of Doctor Who monsters. The next story, about an alien garage planet where they have all sorts of parts for any alien spaceship. So naturally, has a part for the TARDIS. The squid is definitely a slimy, slippery, evil squid and is voiced very well. The Time Reaver itself is an interesting and well-developed concept. It sounds truly horrible and not something that you'd like to encounter ever. Lastly, we have the Donna marries her prince. Donna is to live every little girl's dream and that of every princess and marry a handsome prince. Unfortunately, not only does his country not exist, but the marriage is not all it seems. So marrying Death instead of the handsome prince feels like something the prince should have mentioned before asking her to marry him. Absolutely love Hortense. Go Hortense. The other members of the support cast for each story are great. Great to hear Terry Malloy play someone other than Davros, though he does make an excellent Davros. Death is partly based on the Grim Reaper from the Monty Python movie, The Meaning of Life, which I find interesting. She loves Ten and Donna together. They are the first TARDIS team that she ever saw, and Donna is her favourite of the new series companions. Spent the entire time listening to this, grinning from ear to ear. Loved hearing the old theme tune. Also, Big Finish, if you are listening, please bring on Volume 2. She gives it a 10 out of 10.
Excellent. Yeah, we echo that.
Lastly, on Facebook, Lewis Palmer says, a great start to Tennant on Big Finish. Technophobia, really great story with good monsters. Brilliant support cast with Bex with an X. Great performance. Overall enjoyable experience, 9 out of 10. Time Reaver. For me, this was the weakest story of the set. It wasn't bad, but compared with the other two, it was underwhelming. Didn't care for the villain, and I found Cora's naivety annoying, 7.5. Death and the Queen, just slightly better than Technophobia for making it the best of the set. Donna was great in this, and her scenes with the Doctor were really touching. I love the concept of this story, and it is executed brilliantly. James Goss's writing is great. I think Hortense could return in Volume 2, and I would love that. 9 out of 10. So overall, this gets a 25.5 out of 30, which is a great score. I thought David Tennant's voice sounded different in Technophobia, though. Not a huge deal, but slightly distracting. People have said that this set is too basic, but I think that was what was needed to reintroduce us to the Tennant era.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes. Did you have anything on the Geeks handbag page?
No, I didn't have anything on the post, but I have sort of chatted to people since its release on Geeks, and the overall feeling towards this set has been really positive. I haven't really heard anything or spoken with anyone that had anything particularly bad to say about it. So, yeah, overall, I think the Geeks handbaggers are giving this a big thumbs up.
A big thumbs up. Yeah, so I don't know about you, mate, but I could probably sit here and talk about this box set and stuff for probably another hour or so, but we've got to wrap it up.
I was going to say, I could easily listen to it again. In fact, I will. It is one of those sets I will listen to again and again. And do you know what? I have a feeling that Time Reaver, despite being my least favourite at the minute, I've got a feeling that's going to change, because I just love the concept of it. And I don't know. It's a good set. Also, I'll tell you what's good about it as well. All three stories are different. Yes. So like I was saying about Death of the Queen, there'll be one day I'll be in the mood for that, another day be in the mood for Time Reaver, and so on. So, yeah. Definitely a set I'll be listening to again and again.
It's almost like a sort of mini series for David Tennant, because they're all different and it's all really cool. You know, exactly what you love about Doctor Who.
Yeah.
You know, great little adventures, you know, all that stuff. It's just really good Who.
Bring on Volume 2.
Absolutely, mate. So that's going to do for our review. Next week, we are back to TV. And we're going to do... and some more modern Who. What Doctor are we doing, and what episode next week, buddy?
Next week, it's the 12th Doctor. They're coming bang up to, well, almost bang up today. 12th Doctor. The story we're doing is the Robot of Sherwood. Yes, Robot of Sherwood. Gatis, robots.
Yes. Some interesting thoughts on this one, because this one really divided people for the 12th Doctor. Yes. So once again, look out for the post on Facebook and Twitter. We'd love to hear your thoughts and feelings on the Robot of Sherwood.
Yeah, and we haven't done it. I was going to say, those of you out there thinking, well, surely you reviewed it at the time. No, we didn't, because I think we had a lot of opinions on it, but it was sort of lost in the ether. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to chatting through that one with you.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
That's going to be good.
So I think that's going to do for episode 94.
Excellent.
Thank you for sticking with us. Appreciate it's been a bit of a different one this week, as we've talked through an audio adventure rather than our usual TV affair.
I've liked mixing it up. I don't know about you. It's been good to change it up a gear.
Yes, absolutely. So I hope you've enjoyed talking through Big Finish. If you want us to do any more Big Finish, absolutely let us know. And it doesn't have to be something that's just come out from Big Finish or whatever. If you want us to do something that's been out a couple of years ago or whatever, if you like it, just let us know, and we will throw it on the schedule. if enough of you want us to do it. Right, so head over to the website, www.bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can listen to all of our previous episodes on there, and you can also jump off to Twitter, Facebook, and all that stuff. And you can also click the button on there to go over and subscribe to the show. If you want to subscribe in iTunes, that's all good. And if you listen to us on iTunes, if you could give us a review or a rating, that would be amazing, because that really helps us a whole great deal. Also, check out Adam's channel, The Geek's Handbag.
Geek's Handbag, yeah. Loads of great vids on there to go back and enjoy. I haven't done one for a while, but I'll have some new stuff coming up soon. Yeah, maybe I'll do a review of this tremendous Funko Pop keyring.
The award-winning.
I won't, but yeah, the award-winning keyring.
Yeah, so do go and check out Adam's channel. It's really, really good. Loads of great stuff on there. Just search for him on YouTube and Facebook. Loads of good stuff. Right, until next week, when we revisit the 12th Doctor and those angry eyebrows.
And the spoon.
Yeah. My name is Gary.
My name is Adam.
And until then, remember... Elsie!